Every time with the damn baseball thing.
We're back,
Hey Jeff, how you doing?
baby. What up, Paul?
What's going on?
What's going on? We are
Uh
here to talk about X-Men 97, final three episodes. I know we kind of mentioned
Final three
episode
episodes.
8 already, but it's all one three-part story, so we can probably discuss it,
Yeah,
wrap it into the
that sounds good.
conversation. So,
Yeah.
what'd you think?
Well, I liked them. Of course, there was nothing that compared to the that bomb drop episode. But I thought it wrapped up really nice. It was pretty epic for two whole episodes. I mean, they didn't slack off. That's for sure. They didn't. They certainly brought their A game for those last two episodes too.
Yeah, no, I would say so. I mean, overall, I thought the show was phenomenal. I thought it was probably
Hmm.
the arguably the best written, certainly Marvel show that came out. I mean, WandaVision was really good, but this was just this was on another level, and I put it above 90 95% of Marvel movies in terms of writing. I thought it
I
was
would
just
too. Yep.
so well done.
Yeah. Couldn't do
Um,
that in a Marvel movie. You couldn't move that fast in a Marvel movie, which is strange because I mean everything cuts so fast these days that you would
well, and
just
it's not
imagine
even.
that they probably could, but
It's not. I mean, it's just there was so much time and attention spent on character growth, the character development and evolution. So it's hard to do in a 2 hour movie that they were able to do, and also build off of a history, X-Men's history, off of 5 seasons of another show. And they were able to take this, and instead of doing 20 episodes or 24, whatever they used to do, 10 episodes, craft them meticulously. So yeah, I thought it was amazing. And yeah, of course, episode 5, I mean, that was like red wedding level to me. Um I I was like emotional after watching that for a while.
yeah.
It came back. So episode 8, we talked about it a little bit, but we can recap. That's when the whole, finale, three-part finale started. So the eight is when all of those
Yes, end of eight. Sorry.
sentinels, those sentinel people,
Yeah.
Omega Sentinels, whatever they're called, they show up, they terrorize and destroy the X Mansion. I don't think we talked about, we had like a really cool fight with Nightcrawler and Wolverine. Nightcrawler using 3 swords in his tail, but
We
I actually
did. Yeah.
it was like a really cool thing where Nightcrawler teleported Wolverine, and you got to see it from his perspective, the first person, where he kind of gets sucked through like time and space, and
Yeah.
from Wolverine's like point of view, and you see him going. It was really cool. Um, and that's at the end of that. The X Mansion is destroyed. Professor X shows up. Now we move into episode 9, and he's back. At the end of episode 8, that's when Magneto set off the EMP, reversed the magnetic polarity of the Earth or
Yep.
whatever. The whole world
Yeah,
is
and
in
that he
chaos.
knocks out all, yeah, EMPs the whole world and knocks out all the sentinels.
Yeah, it knocks out the Sentinels, but then that sets up some sort of a deadline, a time crunch of like he's got 24 hours to put things back, or the world will be permanently, destroyed or in chaos or whatever. So now you have
What was it?
Magneto.
What was it that they said was the 24 causing the 24-hour count? Or was it they were just going to blow them up or something? Or
No, I think they kind of framed it as like if the polls don't get fixed within 24 hours, it's going to be a permanent disaster, to
is that a
whatever
real
that
thing?
means.
I mean, I know none of this is a real thing, but that's just a.
Is
We
it
need
a
to add some
real
time frame to
thing?
this.
um Yeah, the only thing that's not real in this show is obviously a teleporting blue demon can't take someone with him. That's ridiculous. That's
Yeah,
preposterous.
yeah.
He could teleport himself, obviously, but I mean, come on.
You're like, of
Um,
course You're like, of course it's a true statement, Paul. Like, one day there will be a man who is the master of magnetism who can float through the air and lift asteroids out of the chunks of ground. And when he does, you will see that he can actually, in fact, knock out all of the communications on Earth. And after that, 24 hours later, nothing will work.
I
car
thought that was
batteries, nothing.
I thought that was super cool that he actually pulls Asteroid M out of the ocean from when it crashed
Yeah,
before. There's, like, a lot of throwbacks, and they just did such a great job with the recall and the Easter eggs, and especially the cameos without making it feel like it was just member berries and pure
yes,
nostalgia for the sake of nostalgia, but it was like, "No,
yeah,
this happened before. We're going to reference it. You don't have to know about it or care, but if you do, you kind of get excited." Um, so yeah, I love that he resurrected Asteroid M. Gave the X Men a chance. Rogue and Sunspot joined him. Super cool. Uh, and then yeah, we get that epic final battle. I mean, we got stuff going on.
yeah.
We've got
Great battle. And Bastion's like really, it's funny. It's like I understand he just controls a lot of robots, but I mean, he's no slouch himself. Like they really made him super, super tough. Like,
they took a pretty B or C rate villain from the comics and turned him into a real badass that
yeah, for sure.
was, interesting and compelling. They gave him a really cool backstory, and they just turned him into this character where, like I said last time, when you kind of see him introduced, it's creepy, you're like your hair stands up, on the back
Hmm.
of your neck when you're seeing him speak. And um so yeah, so you have this battle with Bastion and Mr. Sinister. uh Storm comes back. You have Cyclops. I'm sorry, not Cyclops. You have Jean fighting Cable, who's being controlled by Sinister, and all this stuff going on.
Yep.
They're trying to stop all the Sentinels. At the same time, then you've got, the reference to the blue and the gold team. You have blue team going up to
Yep.
Asteroid M to try to stop Magneto, convince him to turn the polarity of the Earth's poles back, and you know, not which he's already kind of declared war on the planet, on the human race, but like undo what he's done, take a step back. And it was cool. I obviously pay attention. I watch a lot of YouTube videos, and I stay away from spoilers, but I watch a lot of things that kind of maybe predict what's going to happen. I didn't see a lot of people talking about was it Fatal Attractions, and it seemed like it was lining it right up. And I'm like, oh, they're going. And what I didn't hear people talking
Yeah.
about was Wolverine getting his adamantium ripped out, which we'll get to as
Yeah,
soon
once
as
I saw Magneto
go
come
ahead.
back and I saw that it was turning him back into a villain, I was like, "Oh, we're probably gonna get that." I think you and I discussed that on a phone call,
Yeah,
and
and
you were like, "Oh, I think it's gonna be the thing where he sucks all of his adamantium out of him." I'm like, "Yeah, you're probably right."
I didn't
That
think it
was
would be
Fatal
the
Attraction, wasn't it?
end of that episode. I thought maybe the end of the season, but then, you kind of got that battle, Professor X taking over his mind. I don't think Wolverine ever got to stab him in Fatal Attractions. I think like maybe he attempted it and Magneto was kind of like, all right, I'm done with you. We've had this kind of mutual respect for years, but you know, this is where like
Yeah.
you know, taking things to the next level, and rips his adamantium out. And I couldn't believe when he stabs him, and thought he was going to die, and then he still has the power to rip his adamantium out, and Xavier took
You know
over his
what's
mind.
funny?
All of it was so good.
They both go into that coma, Xavier and Magneto, and then when he comes out of the coma, nobody's talking about his gut stab anymore.
No,
Like,
I mean,
did they heal it?
I don't think so. I don't. This is where it's like,
You know what?
it's a
Magneto should
person.
have put the adamantium into himself.
That would have been an interesting twist.
But no, because then every time he used his powers, he would just actually stick to a wall.
He'd become Adamagnetio, Adamagnetio,
Adamantignito.
Magnetio. Yeah, and again, you got all of these Easter egg sort of cameos. Even Morph turned into Hulk, I think, at one point. You had cameos of the
Yeah, I saw
Avengers.
people complaining about that online for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah, people, haters gonna hate. I don't know. You had actually the Avengers, right? Iron Man and Captain America with the president. I don't remember if that was episode 9 or 10. Um, in one of them, you had, I
Yeah,
think, episode 8, you had Doctor Doom. talking to Bastion. I mean, a lot of really cool things they just dropped in there. So then episode 10, I mean, it's a lot to tie together, and
It is. There was a lot going on. You
yeah,
had your classic, space battle slash land battle going on, like Star Wars.
it was it was cool. I'm sorry, it wasn't cool. It was expected, I guess. It was obvious that they were gonna bring Phoenix back. I don't
Right.
think it was necessary.
I don't think it was necessary. You didn't need to. I mean,
No,
I
they
mean,
could
what are
have
you going to do?
saved
Just
that
call it
for
like every time
next
Jean
season.
Grey gets into trouble, like she just like all of a sudden like she's like Shazam. She just Shazams her way
Well,
into
and it
the
was kind of
Phoenix for 5 minutes, and then she's like,
silly as
"Oh,
well because it was kind
you
of like,
wouldn't
oh,
like me when I'm Phoenix." Like every time she gets angry, she just turns it into Phoenix. You
the
wouldn't like
Phoenix
me when I'm Phoenix.
showed up and was just like, "I'll get you out of this," and then left. It was
Yeah,
like,
and
"The
then
Phoenix has
she
left
just
me now."
she just
So,
Deuce X
yeah,
Phoenixed her way right through into the movie for no reason.
yeah. The Phoenix has left. I'll continue on my own with my moderate set of powers instead of my ultimate
Yeah,
set of
yeah,
powers.
exactly. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
like I like the way the Phoenix shows up and then is like, "Hey, can you at least stick around until all of this is wrapped up?" Like don't just
yeah,
come. It's like come to the party late and then you just drink all the beer and then you just take off. You know, don't even help clean up or nothing.
right. Um, silly side note, man. We can cut this out. People aren't going to get it. Never ending story, the movie. Falcor, Atreyu has to go and it's like 10,000 miles to the thing. He's like, oh, how am I going to get all that way? Then Falcor picks him up and he flies him like 9,900 miles. And he's like, I was like, I was like, oh, he took him most of the way. And in my mind, even as a kid, I was like, but he still has 100 miles to go. Like that is
Yeah,
a
yeah.
long
Why did he drop him there? He's like, "Oh, I can't do all the adventure. For you can't just
way.
fly over the whole movie."
Right. So Phoenix
Oh,
comes
look,
like,
there's all the
well,
plot points. We're flying right over all the different plots.
like I'll just stop Cable. You guys can handle Bastion and Mister Sinister on your own. Oh, actually, no, she took out Bastion. That's what she did. She reassembled the headpiece, and um,
Yeah,
but then he absorbs Cable's arm. His biotechnic thing becomes Omega Bastion Prime. I don't know what
yeah,
it's
and with
called.
wings and all that.
Yeah, I mean, look, I don't think that was unnecessary. The Phoenix part, I don't think it was a bad episode. Any of them were going to be hard to stand up to episode five, but also that's different, right? That's like the middle of the
I didn't.
story. You
I
can't.
didn't. I didn't mind. I didn't mind the last two episodes. I thought there was so much action going on in there that
No,
like,
yeah, it was great.
yeah,
It was
like it was
great to wrap it up.
fantastic. Yeah,
Yeah, it's just certainly there are ones that stand out even more than others. And this, even though, I thought the first episode was good, but I thought the second episode was amazing. I thought the fifth episode was amazing. I thought the seventh episode, the end was great. The final episode, it kind of tied everything up. It wasn't in my top three, but I also didn't think it was a bad episode or a filler. I thought they did a good job of handling everything. Super cool the way, you still had the Avengers working with like the government. They tried to destroy everything. And then how did it end? We had half the team gets teleported to the future, half the team gets teleported to the past,
half team
and
is built in the past. Yeah,
we don't know
which
what
is
happened to
basically
Wolverine
it's
anymore.
his version of the what is it, the Siege Perilous?
Yeah,
Where they go instead of going off to Australia and they got knocked to different timelines, and both being different timelines that are part of the X-Men universe, right? So you have the Jean and Scott Ash, what is it?
Ascani.
Ascanzi, what is it? Ascani,
Yeah,
the Ascani story, which
right.
is great with that awesome art by who was it? Gene Ha. Gene Ha, yeah. Gene Ha did the story, the art, and I think it might be a Lobdell story, maybe. I don't know who it was who wrote it. And then you have the Going to the Past, which is only referred to. I don't know how much time. Oh yeah, the Origin of Apocalypse story,
Yeah,
where he looks. odd with the gold and the golden makeup on his face,
Yeah.
or golden rails or whatever they are, gold leaf on
It's
his
just,
face. You
you know,
know.
it's great because they tied everything up, but they left some great cliffhangers. But yeah, I mean, very cool. So now they've got past Apocalypse story, and it's not just Apocalypse, right? Like there's this whole temple, this whole glowing, you know,
Yes.
city, which some speculation about it possibly being Kang and another like Kang variant, which would be interesting and potentially tying things together with MCU. Then you've got the future Cyclops and Jean, uh, kind of riff on the Cyclops and Jean story that you were talking about before. Then the stuff in the present
Yeah.
with Forge searching, and I love again a little Easter egg with uh, the Days of Future Past cover, you know, with the missing, like presumed like dead.
Yep.
As but you know, 6 months. So
Yeah.
that's
Good
why
stuff.
it's interesting. And then Bishop comes back. They're going to be doing some time traveling. So whether or not Wolverine dropped, I mean, he and Morph are the only ones they didn't show at the end. So
Hmm.
you know, and also Wolverine's still like in his coma with no adamantium. Now you got all this story to
Yeah.
tell with him. You've got future story, you got past story, you've got present story, you've got Apocalypse, and then there was the Apocalypse teaser with, you know, the return of Gambit becoming one of the four horsemen,
Because
teasing.
somebody who likes Apocalypse likes Gambit and just was like, I'm just gonna make Apocalypse a horseman. I mean, I'm gonna make Gambit a horseman.
Yeah, they gave him some nice
If I was writing
black
Marvel
leather
comics, I'd do the same
bondage.
thing. Oh, did he wear all black leather?
Yeah, looks like it.
Of course he did.
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, some sort of return for Gambit, which they don't need to bring him back, but yeah, whatever. We'll see. We'll see what happens with the story. One cool thing too, I don't know if you'd seen or read that apparently Bo DeMaio had actually written out season 2 before he was fired.
Oh, really?
So yeah, so how much of that he wrote or how much gets used or how much they modify, at least we'll kind of continue to get his take on, which was a phenomenal, you know, take and execution of X-Men in general, not let alone X-Men cartoon, continued in season 2. So I'm like very excited for that. Um,
Yeah, for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, me too. We're gonna get a lot of stuff. You know me, I love Apocalypse. So we got two of them. We got a future Apocalypse, and then we got a past Apocalypse, right? So I'm getting all the Apocalypse I could possibly want. I don't think you're going to get Age of Apocalypse in that season. I think you're going to get it the next season, season 3. I think that this is going to be some sort of struggle for everybody to get back together while trying to take control of a non-fully powerful Apocalypse. I think the one in the past, like you said, is probably being dominated by a Kang variant, and it's you're going to see in the future people are fighting against the most evil version of Apocalypse, and in the past they're helping him for mutant kind to overtake and maybe destroy the Kang variant. Maybe I'm wrong. That's just my theory because you mentioned that there was that Kang complex or whatever.
Yeah, there's a lot they could do with Kang and Apocalypse and, you know, these two like mega powerful, like world dominating forces. It's so yeah, as far as Age of Apocalypse goes, it's kind of interesting, right? Because so the way that they've been blowing through storylines here, I wouldn't be surprised if
You
they
might be right.
just like did it for one episode. You know, hopefully it would be at
Yeah,
least two, you know. Interestingly, like they could pull what they did in the comics and actually do a whole season just Age of Apocalypse. That would be pretty
they
wild.
could. That would just be great if like they ended it like if the future Apocalypse and the ancient Apocalypse wind up coming together into a giant brawl where they're both fighting with one another. Where at the end
Well,
is like,
you know, Age of Apocalypse, you had Legion come back, kill Professor X. The problem I feel like with this Age of Apocalypse story is that they kind of already did it in X-Men, whatever it was, season 1 or 2. And as we know, that's actually where the Age of Apocalypse got its
yeah,
inspiration. Was like, oh, this is a good idea. Let's let's have Legion go back and kill him. And obviously the comic uh, adaptation, the comic story was way more involved, way cooler, way more epic than the two was. I think a two-part story in the original cartoon. Would they like redo it? Because I mean, they have made well, it was Fox, but they did make two Dark Phoenix movies because they're like, the first one
Yeah.
sucked. Let's make another one, and that one sucked too. But would they go back and say, you know what? Never mind that Age of Apocalypse. Let's go like full on Age of Apocalypse. Let's do it for 4 episodes, half a season, whatever, and go
Yeah.
like. I mean,
I mean,
it could be cool.
if I was looking for ways to keep the show going, I would find a way to stretch out whatever this next season is, and then end it on a cliffhanger where whatever happens, something devastating happens, and then all of a sudden, like you're like, okay, and then you just see in the last few frames or in the last scene that everybody looks completely different, and then you're like, you realize where they are, and then you just and roll credits on the last episode of that season, and then everybody knows that next season is going to be completely Age of Apocalypse. But also, you don't know how they're going to do it because they're changing things up so interestingly and different that you're like, well, they're obviously not going to do a one-to-one adaptation of Age of Apocalypse. So, like, what characters are they going to throw in that they wanted to throw in that weren't in the original Age of Apocalypse? And what alliances are different characters going to have? Like, didn't they have like a who was the skinny saber-toothed guy? I remember there was like a skinny
Wild
saber-toothed
Child?
guy. What is that his name? Wild Child? That's a
Yeah.
terrible name. God,
Yeah.
that's a
If I
terrible name.
remember correctly, I think that Morph, well, maybe not his first appearance, but like he was actually a really popular character in Age of Apocalypse, where they kind of, I think he existed in the old continuity, but I don't think he was really utilized much.
Yeah,
And then they had him in Age of Apocalypse
yeah.
Morph, and they introduced Blink and
And
then
Dark Beast.
and X-Man, and then a few of them were popular enough that they kind of carried them over into the actual main continuity.
Mhm.
Um,
Yeah,
but yeah,
yeah. There
so
is a few interesting. There's a few. Dark Beast comes back into our timeline. Ileana is reborn through there because I think she died, and then that's how she comes back as a baby through there. So I don't know how that were all worked out. How she wound up being almost identical. I don't remember how any of that worked out with her.
do you ever read
I just
any of the Uncanny X-Force?
I did. I think I read the first arc. Isn't that the one with the baby apocalypse?
Yeah, maybe we'll get
Yeah, I would have to.
a really cool, mature themed like X-Force spinoff.
Yeah,
Probably not, but or even an episode, where they got like this, Black Ops team with Wolverine going to like kill some Apocalypse clone that's a child, and they decide to like save him instead.
that may all come in the next season after the Age of Apocalypse season, if we're timing our whole thing out right. But you're right; they're moving so fast. You could wind up doing like they could do 2 episodes of whatever we saw last, and then all of a sudden it could just be Age of Apocalypse. 2 episodes in next season, and they
Yeah,
blow
and that
through the Age of Apocalypse in 3 episodes, and then they get us back to something else.
and 3 episodes would kind of be longer than they've been doing, right? I mean, Inferno was
Yeah,
one
three I
episode.
think is about it.
Uh,
Yeah,
Life Death was 2 episodes. Um,
yeah, but it was
I mean,
basically one
it,
episode because it was it was half and half of
oh, that's right. Yeah.
a
Fatal
single episode.
Attractions was basically one
Yeah,
episode. So
so they're basically just hop, skip, and jumping through all the different X-Men plot lines.
yeah,
Um,
at this point, from where the last season ended in the history of the comic books to now where they're at in the comic books versus where the first season started to the original X-Men in 1963, there are more years and more storylines that they have to pick and choose from, even just from the last 25 years than they did the first time, which is pretty cool. So hopefully they do slow it down. It's an interesting thing, right? I'm not complaining about the pacing. It's more of an
yeah,
observation. And it's just that because I thought the show was so good and because I liked it so much, I would have enjoyed them to go a little bit
Yeah,
slower.
yeah, yeah. You're just saying it's like it's too good. Stop moving so fast. I want a minute to like sit with it. You know what I mean? Like, and I agree with that. Like, I'm not. It's not a criticism. It's just a desire of mine. Like, I just wish that they were, that it wasn't moving so fast.
Right,
But
absolutely.
yeah. So I think next season's going to be pretty exciting, and I'm going to get all the apocalypse I can possibly want. I get two apocalypse scenarios,
Let's
and
really
then
quick, let's touch on just since we're talking about it, how do you think or feel about this show and its relationship to the MCU, whether it's going to connect or tie in? There was a lot of speculation for a while that like, oh, the beast that we saw and the Professor X that we saw in the MCU, these, even the Wolverine and the new Deadpool, these are all X-Men animated characters in their universe, and we're going to see it all come together. Maybe now some people are thinking that's not true. Some people still think it is. Um, what are your feelings? What are your thoughts on that?
you so you think that you're saying that there's a feeling that this is our template for the MCU X-Men, right, in live action, where this is going to be not just their template, but it might actually be integrated into their actual official timeline.
Correct. Like this is going to be the section of the multiverse where the X-Men that we've seen have come from, right? Because
I would
visually,
agree. I mean, I would like to see that. I mean, if they pulled that off, it would certainly seem like wow, they really have been planning on putting the X-Men into their movies for quite some time now, and that I'd be pleasantly surprised by that. I won't be disappointed if that's not what they're doing, but I'm certain Deadpool's movie has a lot more to do with it than the X-Men cartoon does.
sure.
Or they would have timed that. They probably would have timed it better, so that way you got like a one-two punch of awesomeness. But you never know how they can plan the timing of these things. I mean, you're talking about a long form animation project, and then also these movies that are always being pushed and delayed and reshot.
I'm very
I'm
curious to
really
see where
anticipating it.
if this at all ties into the the live action MCU. Um, I won't be surprised if it does, and I won't be surprised if it doesn't, because they've kind of hinted at that in many ways with the X-Men theme song, with all the visual, the aesthetics
Yeah,
of all the characters they've shown have been the cartoon versions, but also they don't
I
have
think you're
to.
right.
They also are just it could just be the Fox universe X-Men that they're connecting to.
Yeah, I don't
So
know. I think you're right. I think that this show is probably was built to line up like that. Like when you just said that the original one of the original air date for Deadpool was supposed to line up around this time. I have this strange feeling that that may have been planned, and that you know there's probably going to be a shot at the end of Deadpool where after all the universes collide or whatever, we're going to have a shot of our supposedly new X-Men team, or maybe not. So they haven't cast all the actors yet, so we
actually,
don't
there was
know in
another
what
interesting
format
thing.
that'll be.
Bo DeMaio had said in a tweet something about like that he was allowed to, show anybody have cameos from different Marvel characters, but except Deadpool. Deadpool was off limits. He wasn't allowed to use him at all in the show.
Oh, that's very interesting.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh, that's great. That's yet another interesting clue. I think maybe these things may line up, and I think at the end you're going to. I think at the very end you're gonna see something at the end of Deadpool that clues us in to the tie in between
You
this
know,
show, the Fox X-Men, or and
I will
Marvel
say,
Universe.
as much as the Fox X-Men had their ups and downs, and they had some great ones and they had some really bad ones, and they they brought the X-Men to the screen. They brought superhero movies to like the big screen. We wouldn't be here without X-Men.
Yeah,
I will say, like, I would much rather Marvel have just gone completely their own way, integrating or creating X-Men in the MCU rather than just pulling the Fox X-Men But if it was a choice between Fox X-Men or animated X-Men, I'd much rather them be integrating the animated X-Men into the MCU. My personal.
Right. See, yeah, I get you. I mean, I don't know if they're going to be integrating the Fox MCU. First of all, I mean, who else are you going to get to play except Wolverine? But
Well, I
you
mean, that's
know,
the
like
thing. You already have Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. You have Fraser as what's his name, Kelsey
as the
Grammer as
Beast.
Beast. You
But
know, so
all these things are different tie-ins, and whatever happens in Deadpool is probably going to screw all that up. Or you know what I mean? Like I don't know if I highly doubt Marvel's jumping up and down to sign Kelsey Grammer to a 9-picture X-Men deal for you
no,
know what
no,
I
no,
mean?
no.
Or
Granted, like it's probably just a way of closing it out, and Kevin
right.
Feige kind of being like, "Well, let's tie things up with the sort of like death of the Fox X-Men universe now that it doesn't exist anymore." But anyway, I don't know. We'll see.
All right.
All right.
Well, that one will wrap it up for today.
Yeah. Cool.
Be good, everybody. We'll see you next time.
Yeah. Later.